In this video, I want to look at several different basic properties of arithmetic. These are going to include properties of addition, multiplication, distributive property, as well as the properties of equality. Let's start with the properties of addition. There are four big properties of addition. The first is the identity property. A plus 0 is equal to A. The identity property says that adding 0 does not change anything. The second is the inverse property. A plus negative A is equal to 0. Adding a number and it's negative is equal to 0. Next, we have the commutative property that says A plus B is equal to B plus A, which says the order of addition is not important when adding two numbers. And finally, we have the associative property, which says A plus B plus C is equal to A plus B plus C. So this one says that the order of parentheses is not important. And we can do examples of each of these properties to help demonstrate them as well. For the identity property, we could say something like 5 plus 0 is equal to 5. I add a number plus 0 and get back to where I started. The inverse property, we could say something like 2 plus negative 2. Well, this is the same thing as 2 minus 2, which is 0, so this satisfies my inverse property. For commutativity, I know that 3 plus 4 is equal to 7, which is also equal to 4 plus 3. For associative, if I say something like 1 plus 2 plus 3, well, 2 plus 3 is 5, and 1 plus 5 is 6. On the other hand, if I switch the parentheses and do 1 plus 2 and then 3, 1 plus 2 is 3, and 3 plus 3 is 6. Next, I want to look at the properties of multiplication. And there are going to be 5 properties of multiplication. The identity property says A times 1 is equal to A. Multiplying any number by 1 doesn't change that number. It stays exactly where it was. Next, we have the inverse property, which says A times 1 over A is equal to 1. Multiplying a number by its reciprocal gets you back to the identity. It gets you back to 1. Commutativity says that A times B is equal to B times A. The order of multiplication doesn't matter. The associative property says that A times B times C is the same thing as A times B times C, so parentheses don't matter with multiplication. And so far, these have been the same 4 basic ideas as the properties of addition, but there is one extra property of multiplication. That's the 0 property. A times 0 is equal to 0. Multiplying any number times 0 results in 0. And just like before, we can do several examples of these to help demonstrate. I can see that 3 times 1 is equal to 3, which demonstrates my identity property. I can do something like 7 times 1 over 7, and that would be equal to 1. That demonstrates my inverse property. We can say 2 times 5 is equal to 10. That's the same thing as 5 times 2. That shows my commutative property. For associative, if I do 2 times 3 in parentheses, all times 4, 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 times 4 is 24. On the other hand, if I change the parentheses around, 3 times 4 is 12, and 2 times 12 is 24. And for our 0 property, we can do something like 9 times 0 equal to 0. Next, we have our distributive property, and there is only one distributive property. It says that if I multiply A times B plus C in parentheses, it's the same thing as A times B plus A times C. As an example, 2 times 3 plus 4. 3 plus 4 is 7, and 2 times 7 is 14. On the right-hand side, that looks like 2 times 3 plus 2 times 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8, and 6 plus 8 is 14. Next, I want to look at my properties of equality, and there are actually a total of 7 of these. The addition property states that if A is equal to B, then A plus C is equal to B plus C. If I know that the two sides are the same, I can add the same number to both sides, and it will still remain equal. If I know that I have 2 apples, and you have 2 apples, and we each gain 3 apples, we would still have the same number of apples. Similarly, I have the subtraction property. If A is equal to B, then A minus C is equal to B minus C. If I know that you have 7 balloons and I have 7 balloons, and I know that I lost 3 and you lost 3, then we would still have the same number. The multiplication property, if A is equal to B, then A times C is equal to B times C. So I can multiply both sides of an equation by the same number. If I know I have 2 toys, and I know you have 2 toys, and I know I have 3 bags full of 2 toys, and you have 3 bags with 2 toys, then we would still have the same amount. Similarly, we have the division property. If A is equal to B, then A over C is equal to B over C, where C is not equal to 0. So I can divide both sides of an equation by the same number as long as it's non-zero. I know that I have 6 stickers and you have 6 stickers. I give half of mine away and you give half of yours away, we would still have the same amount. The reflexive property says that A is equal to A. This just says that a number is always equal to itself. The symmetric property says that if A is equal to B, then B is equal to A. It doesn't matter which side of the equation different pieces come on. If I know that you have the same number of toys as I do, I also know that I have the same number of toys as you do. Finally, we have the transitive property. If A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A is equal to C. We know that Alex and Bobby have the same number of pencils. We also know that Bobby and Chrissy have the same number of pencils. So we must be able to say that Alex and Chrissy have the same number of pencils. And we can use all of these properties, our properties of addition, multiplication, distributive property, and properties of equality to solve equations algebraically.